The fine red dust of Baron 2742 coated everything, no matter how well sealed the equipment was supposed to be. Lead researcher Naz Tool ran a cleaning cloth over his sensor array for the third time that morning, his second set of eyes squinting at the readout while his primary pair monitored the excavation team below. The timing of each scrape and thud from their digging tools carried clearly through the thin atmosphere. Not for the first time, Naz Tool marveled at how a world that had clearly once supported life could become so utterly sterile. The geological record showed evidence of oceans, forests, even atmospheric oxygen, yet now the surface was nothing but rust-colored wasteland stretching to a horizon hazed by endless dust storms.
Another anomaly in the resonance patterns,
his assistant Bell reported, her scaled fingers dancing across her own sensor display.
Same signature as before. Perfectly regular spacing, far too precise to be natural formations.
Naz Tool chittered in acknowledgement, all four arms moving in practiced synchronization as he adjusted the sensitivity of his equipment. The seismic readings had drawn them to this region, hints of buried structures that didn't match any known geological processes. Most of his colleagues had dismissed the data as artifacts of the planet's unstable core, but Naz Tool had seen something in the patterns that spoke of artifice rather than accident. He kept his lower arm steady on the controls while his upper pair traced the readouts.
Look at these density variations. Whatever's down there, it's built from materials unlike anything in our geological database.
Could be natural deposits we haven't cataloged yet,
Bell suggested, though her tone carried more curiosity than skepticism. She'd been with the project long enough to trust Naz Tool's instincts.
Natural deposits don't form geometric patterns like this. Even naturally occurring crystals are often asymmetric or misshapen,
he countered, adjusting the display to highlight the shapes hidden beneath layers of compacted dust and stone.
And they certainly don't maintain structural integrity for...
He paused, double-checking the dating estimates.
At least 15 million cycles.
The dig team's rhythm faltered as their tools struck something that rang with a clear, metallic tone. Naz Tool's membrane ears flattened against his skull at the sound, so different from the dull impacts they'd grown used to. Below, the workers carefully began clearing away the surrounding material, revealing a surface that gleamed dully even through its coating of red dust.
Primary readings coming in,
Vel reported, her own membrane ears pivoting forward with interest.
This can't be right. The density and structural properties don't match anything in our materials database.
Naz Tool moved to her station, checking the results himself. The numbers were impossible, suggesting a material lighter than standard construction alloys but with strength characteristics that exceeded anything their civilization had developed. His upper arms twitched with excitement, while his lower pair already began composing a message to the project's oversight committee.
Get me a sample analysis,
he ordered, trying to keep his voice steady.
Full spectrum, atomic structure, everything. And tell the dig team to proceed with extreme caution. I want this site documented with perfect precision.
As Vel relayed his instructions, Naz Tool found his gaze drawn to the strange markings visible on the exposed surface. They weren't like any writing system he recognized, yet they carried the unmistakable mark of intelligent design. The implications sent his mind spinning with possibilities. Looking up at the dust-stained sky, he wondered about the beings who had built this place. What were they like? What had happened to them? And most importantly, what else might they have left behind? The wind picked up, carrying more of the omnipresent red dust. Naz Tool noticed it was the exact same shade as the rust that formed on iron-based metals, though he pushed that thought aside as mere coincidence. After all, what kind of civilization would build their structures primarily out of rust? His sensor array chimed with another alert. They'd found more of the strange metal, and this time it wasn't just random fragments. The geometric patterns were resolving into clear artificial structures now, The layout of something huge and buried, but largely intact. Whatever this place had been, they were about to uncover its secrets. Naztul felt a shiver run through all 4 arms. They were standing on the cusp of something monumental. He could feel it in his bones, in the way the wind seemed to whisper ancient secrets as it swept across the dead world's surface. They just had to be careful enough, methodical enough, to uncover those secrets without destroying them in the process. 3 weeks into the excavation, Naztul stood at the edge of what they'd uncovered, all 4 arms pressed against the safety railing as he stared into the vast chamber below. The facility stretched far deeper than their initial scans had suggested, its walls lined with machinery that defied conventional engineering principles.
The composition analysis just finished,
Vel announced, hurrying up beside him with a data tablet clutched in her primary manipulators.
You're going to want to see this.
The numbers scrolling across the screen made his membrane ears flutter in disbelief.
Run it again.
Already did. 5 times.
Vel's scales rippled with excitement.
The alloy's base components are common elements. Iron, carbon, various transition metals. But the molecular structure...
She manipulated the display to show a 3-dimensional model.
Look at these lattice patterns. They shouldn't be possible.
Naztul studied the crystalline structure. Unlike traditional metallic bonds, these atoms were arranged in configurations that seemed to defy the normal rules of electron shell interaction. The result was a material that combined properties which should have been mutually exclusive. Below them, the research team's metallurgist demonstrated those properties for the project's oversight committee. She placed a sample of the ancient alloy next to a piece of modern warship plating, the strongest material their civilization had developed. Both pieces were identical in size and shape.
Standard gravity here is 0.8 universal,
she explained, activating a small mass driver device.
This will strike both samples with exactly the same force.
The machine hummed to life. 2 identical projectiles launched simultaneously, striking the metal samples with precisely calibrated force. The modern alloy deformed visibly on impact. The ancient sample barely even vibrated.
Now observe the mass difference.
She lifted both pieces easily.
The ancient alloy is roughly 40% lighter than our most advanced materials, and this is just a raw sample, not even properly forged or worked.
One of the committee members leaned forward, his sensory stalks extended with interest.
Speaking of forging, what have you learned about the facility itself?
That's the truly remarkable part, Naztul interjected, descending to join the demonstration.
The machinery here isn't just for shaping metal. It's an entire production line for creating the alloy itself.
He gestured to the enormous mechanisms lining the walls.
The process appears to use precisely controlled electromagnetic fields to manipulate the atomic lattice during formation. We've already identified most of the key stages.
Most?
The committee members' stalks twitched.
The machines are damaged,
Vel explained, joining them.
Time and tectonic activity have taken their toll, but the basic principles are clear enough that we believe we can reconstruct the process.
To demonstrate, she led them to a smaller chamber they'd converted into a testing area. A simplified version of one of the ancient machines hummed quietly in the corner, cobbled together from salvaged parts and modern equivalents.
We've managed to replicate some of the simpler lattice configurations,
she said, removing a small ingot from the device.
The properties aren't quite as remarkable as the original alloy, but they're far beyond anything we can currently produce.
The metallurgist took the ingot and ran it through another series of tests. The results drew appreciative murmurs from the committee. Even this imperfect reproduction demonstrated characteristics that would revolutionize multiple industries.
With more time and resources, we believe we can fully reconstruct the original process,
Naztul concluded.
This facility wasn't just a forge. It was a research and development center.
The ancient texts were clearly experimenting with different compositions and techniques.
He turned to face the committee directly.
We've only scratched the surface of what this discovery could mean. The applications extend far beyond simple construction materials. The way this alloy interacts with electromagnetic fields alone could transform everything from power generation to spacecraft design.
The committee members huddled together, their sensory stalks intertwining as they communicated privately. After a moment, they turned back to the research team.
Full funding approved, the lead member announced. Classification level Omega. We want this process fully documented and reproducible as quickly as possible.
As the committee filed out, Naztul found himself drawn back to the main chamber. The ancient machines loomed in the dim light, their true purpose finally understood after millions of cycles. Yet questions still nagged at him. Why had the ancients needed such incredible materials? What had they built with them? And most troubling, what had happened to wipe them out despite having such advanced technology? Looking at the mighty forge's silent bulk, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to change the course of civilization itself. He just hoped they were ready for where that change might lead. And now, your host for Galactic Business Today, Jira Nexus.
The hollow display shimmered as a sleek Sinitaran materialized, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with professional enthusiasm. Good evening, viewers. Our top story continues to be the meteoric rise of Neo-Forge Industries, whose revolutionary legacy alloy has become the fastest adopted material in modern history.
The display split to show various applications of the new material. Massive construction projects, vehicle prototypes, consumer goods.
In just 18 months since receiving production rights, NFI has transformed from an unknown startup into the galaxy's most valuable corporation. We go now to Chief Market Analyst Pex Vor.
A portly Rhodian appeared, his financial augments glowing as he processed real-time market data.
The numbers are unprecedented, Jira. NFI's market value has exceeded the combined worth of the next 5 largest material corporations. Their production facilities can't keep up with demand, even with 3 new forge complexes coming online this quarter.
And what is driving this explosive growth?
Simply put, legacy alloy makes everything better.
Pex gestured, bringing up comparison diagrams.
Construction projects that once took years now finish in months. The new orbital lift on Proxima Prime used 60% less material than traditional designs while supporting 4 times the load capacity. Vehicle manufacturers report maintenance costs dropping by orders of magnitude due to the alloy's remarkable durability.
The display shifted to show a busy spaceport.
Even the shipping industry is being revolutionized. Cargo vessels built with legacy alloy can achieve significantly higher accelerations while carrying more mass. Expected transport times between major hubs have been cut nearly in half.
Jira's patterns shifted to indicate transition to a new topic.
Speaking of transportation, there's been considerable speculation about potential military applications. Has NFI commented on their relationship with various defense departments?
They maintain that their focus is purely civilian,
Pex replied carefully.
However, there are unconfirmed reports of multiple governments attempting to acquire controlling interests in the company. The recent patent dispute.
Pardon the interruption,
Jira cut in smoothly.
But we're receiving breaking news from the Outer Rim. We go live to senior correspondent Thex Moonweaver at the scene of what appears to be a pirate attack on a legacy alloy transport.
The feed switched to a breathless Lunari reporter, her silver skin reflecting emergency lights.
Jira, I'm at Outpost Station 17, where authorities have just repelled an unprecedented assault. 3 unidentified vessels attempted to board an NFI freighter carrying raw legacy alloy ingots.
What's remarkable is that they appear to be using crude weapons and armor fabricated from stolen samples of the material.
Security footage played, showing figures in mismatched armor shrugging off standard weapons fire.
Station security was forced to resort to extreme measures to stop the attackers. The incident has raised serious questions about the need for new defensive protocols given the alloy's capabilities.
Back in the studio, Jira's patterns had shifted to concern.
Thank you, Thex. Pex, what are the market implications of this incident?
Already seeing ripples, the analyst confirmed. Insurance rates for legacy alloy shipments are spiking. Several governments are calling for increased regulation of sales and transport. NFI stock actually rose on the news, likely due to speculation about military contracts.
Speaking of government interest,
Jira segued,
we have exclusive footage from the Science Ministry's latest public demonstration of legacy alloy applications.
The display showed a testing chamber where researchers subjected various alloy-enhanced devices to extreme conditions. A medical scanner, half the size of traditional models, yet twice as powerful. A power core housing that contained plasma temperatures that would sublimate conventional materials. Construction robots wielding tools that could reshape the nearly indestructible metal through precisely controlled electromagnetic fields.
As we can see,
Jira commented,
the implications extend far beyond simple structural improvements. Many are calling this the beginning of a new technological age. The question becomes not what can be enhanced with legacy alloy, but what can't be.
She turned back to the camera, patterns shifting to their conclusion sequence.
When we return, agricultural corporations report promising results from legacy alloy-enhanced farming equipment, and the entertainment industry embraces the new material's unique properties. But first, a word from our sponsors.
The news feed continued, but in NFI's primary research facility, Naztul barely noticed it playing in the background. His attention was fixed on the latest test results from their attempts to improve the alloy's electromagnetic response characteristics. The pirate attack was concerning, yes, but he had more immediate worries. Like the fact that their most recent samples were showing properties that even he didn't fully understand. Properties that, in the wrong hands, could be far more dangerous than simple armor plating. He made a note to increase security around certain research documents. Some discoveries weren't ready for public revelation. Not yet. The pirate vessel's approach defied conventional logic. It simply absorbed the merchant's defensive fire. Legacy alloy plating shrugging off impacts that should have reduced it to scrap. Instead of maintaining distance and disabling key systems, the raiders drove straight for the larger ship's hull.
Look at the impact velocity,
Admiral Krenvoss noted.
Any normal vessel attempting that would have shattered on contact.
The pirate ship's reinforced bow smashed into the merchant vessel's side, legacy alloy cutting through standard hull plating like a blade through fabric. Armored figures poured from the breach, their crude but effective suits letting them ignore emergency countermeasures.
7th incident this cycle,
Fleet Commander Ixthel added, her secondary arms shuffling through damage reports.
Same pattern every time. No attempts at ranged combat or system disruption. They just ram their way in and overwhelm the crew through direct contact.
Because they can,
Krenvoss replied grimly.
Legacy alloy makes it possible. Our entire defensive doctrine is based on keeping hostile forces at a distance. What happens when distance no longer matters?
The question hung heavy in the command center's recycled air. Around them, displays showed similar reports from across controlled space. Pirates and mercenaries, using stolen or black market legacy armor to simply ignore traditional defensive measures. The material's properties made close quarters combat not just viable, but optimal. A priority alert flashed across the main screen. Another merchant vessel under attack, this time in the coreward sectors. But as they watched the familiar scenario unfold,
something changed. The merchant's hull, rather than buckling under impact, held firm. When the pirates attempted to cut through, their tools sparked uselessly against the surface. The defenders' response was immediate and devastating. Armed crews in legacy armor of their own, emerging to meet the boarders head-on.
Merchant Marine Corps,
Ixthel explained, reading from the update.
they've started deploying special security teams equipped with the latest NFI products. This is their first real engagement.
The battle that followed was unlike anything in modern military records. Armored figures clashed in brutal close combat, conventional weapons proving nearly useless against legacy alloy protection. The fighting moved through the ship's corridors like some ancient martial contest, victory determined by skill and strength rather than firepower.
The implications are clear, Admiral Kryn Voss said finally. We need to completely rethink our approach to space combat. All our current tactics assume some degree of vulnerability to energy weapons and long-range kinetics. That assumption no longer holds.
He turned to face the assembled command staff.
As of now, I'm ordering a full strategic review. I want new doctrine developed specifically accounting for legacy alloy capabilities. Focus on boarding operations, point defense, and close quarters ship handling.
Sir, one of his strategic advisors spoke up.
The Military Commission has already submitted a request to revoke NFI's patent rights. They're citing public safety concerns.
Good. We need centralized control of legacy alloy production.
The Admiral's frills flattened.
But that's only the first step. We need dedicated training facilities, new ship designs, completely revised combat protocols. The entire nature of warfare is about to change.
As if to emphasize his point, another alert lit up the display. 3 more pirate attacks, all using the same tactics. But this time, the reports included something new. Combat footage showing pirates wielding massive blade weapons forged from legacy alloy, cutting through standard hull plating with terrifying ease.
They're adapting faster than we are,
Ixthel observed quietly.
The material's properties make archaic weapon designs viable again.
All our assumptions about technological superiority need to be reconsidered. Admiral Kryn Voss watched the footage loop again, his tactical mind already racing through possibilities. The pirates had stumbled onto something profound. When armor becomes nearly impenetrable, combat necessarily moves to closer ranges. When energy weapons prove ineffective, kinetic alternatives become dominant. And when those kinetics are forged from legacy alloy...
Begin immediate reactivation of all mothballed close combat training facilities, he ordered. And get me everything we have on historical melee warfare tactics. We're about to see the return of some very old ways of fighting.
The command center burst into activity, orders flowing out to various fleet elements. But the Admiral's gaze remained fixed on the display showing armored figures locked in close combat aboard the merchant vessel. A scene that would soon become all too common across the galaxy. The age of standoff warfare was ending. The era of the boarder, the close fighter, the blade wielder was about to begin. All because of one revolutionary material from a long-dead civilization. The test range fell silent as the Indomitable emerged from its docking cradle. 5 years of engineering, countless material refinements, and enough legacy alloy to build a small city had produced something unprecedented. A warship designed from the keel up to exploit the ancient material's properties. Fleet Commander Ixthel watched from the observation deck as the vessel oriented itself toward the target array. Unlike traditional designs with their sleek lines and standoff weapons arrays, the Indomitable bristled with close combat systems. Its reinforced prow resembled ancient ramming ships, while its hull incorporated multiple boarding tubes and assault craft bays.
Weapon systems online, the range controller announced. First phase commencing. Standard naval energy weapons opened up from fixed positions. Beams capable of coring traditional capital ships splashed harmlessly off the Indomitable's hull, their energy dispersed through the unique lattice structure of its armor. Even sustained fire barely raised the vessel's thermal signature. Energy weapons ineffective, the controller noted clinically. Proceeding to kinetic phase. Railgun emplacements thundered, launching hyper-velocity projectiles designed to penetrate modern warship armor. They struck the Indomitable with enough force to vaporize conventional materials. The legacy alloy hull didn't even dent.
By all the ancient gods,
Admiral Kren Voss breathed, joining Ixthel at the viewport.
The simulations were right. Traditional weapons are practically useless.
That's not even the most impressive part, Ixthel replied. Helm, execute attack pattern Sigma.
The Indomitable's engines flared. Despite its massive bulk, the vessel moved with startling agility, crossing the distance to the target array in seconds. Kren Voss shook his head in wonder.
We're going to need entirely new tactical doctrines. Everything we know about naval combat is about to become obsolete.
The Admiralty's already working on it, Ixthel confirmed. They're calling it intimate range combat. Battles fought close enough to see the enemy with naked eyes. The Indomitable's just the first. 3 more hulls are under construction, each incorporating lessons from our trials. The vessel executed a pass, demonstrating its close quarters maneuverability. Its design emphasized quick direction changes and aggressive acceleration, perfect for closing with enemies before they could escape. Traditional point defense weapons had been replaced with short-range kinetic systems using legacy alloy projectiles.
What about countermeasures?
Kren Voss asked.
Surely there must be some way to...
That's the real problem,
Ixthel interrupted.
The only thing that can reliably damage legacy alloy is legacy alloy. Once both sides have ships like this, battles will inevitably devolve into point-blank range slugging matches, ramming attacks, boarding actions, possibly even direct ship-to-ship contact.
The Indomitable launched a spread of boarding torpedoes. Each one was essentially a solid spike of legacy alloy, designed to pierce enemy hulls and deliver assault teams directly into their target. The test drones they struck were reduced to spinning wreckage.
We're also seeing interesting developments in ship-mounted melee weapons,
she continued.
Massive blade arrays, pneumatic rams, even powered grappling systems. Things that would have been suicidal before legacy alloy made ships tough enough to survive close contact.
The Admiral's expression darkened.
The pirates figured it out first. All those boarding attacks taking advantage of legacy alloy's protective properties. They were showing us the future of naval warfare.
And now everyone's racing to adapt,
Ixthel agreed.
The Hegemony launched their first legacy alloy warship last week. The Trade Federation has 6 under construction. Even the Outer Rim colonies are converting merchant ships into close combat vessels.
They watched as the Indomitable began another attack run. Its profile against the stars reminded Kren Voss of something from historical archives. Ancient ocean-going vessels with reinforced prows and close-range weapons. History repeating itself among the stars.
Full tactical analysis suggests most engagements will be decided in the first few seconds of contact,
Ixthel said.
No more long-range missile duels or energy weapon exchanges. Ships will close at maximum acceleration, strike hard and fast, then either board or disengage before reinforcements arrive.
Which means we need crews trained for close combat,
Kren Voss mused.
Soldiers who can fight in tight corridors. Marines specialized in rapid boarding actions. The skills